our dear viewers, and welcome to this special edition of our program Africa Today. Today's edition is dedicated to the discussions that Egypt was making and the talks with the U.S. to reduce the tensions in Lebanon and Gaza. Then we will shed light in Egypt's role in the continent, where Egypt has always placed economic development in the continent among the top priority, which has been keen on activating the African Continental Free Trade Area. And we'll start with the latest development in Gaza, where Foreign Minister Badr Abdel-Ati recent talks with U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken focus on de-escalation efforts in both Lebanon and Gaza. Both emphasize the need for urgent humanitarian aid and coordination to calm the region, with Abdel-Ati reiterating Egypt's rejection of any violations of the sovereignty of Lebanon.
Badr Abdel-Ati and U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken discussed de-escalation efforts in Lebanon and the Gaza Strip in a phone call on Tuesday. As stated by the Foreign Ministry, both ministers stressed the need to intensify coordination to calm the region. During the call, Abdel-Ati reiterated Egypt's strong rejection of any violations of Lebanon's sovereignty and territorial integrity, highlighting the critical importance for an immediate and comprehensive ceasefire. Abdel-Ati also emphasized the necessity of intensifying the delivery of urgent humanitarian and relief aid to the Lebanese people, given the displacement of over 1 million citizens due to the Israeli aggressions. He highlighted the importance of supporting and empowering Lebanese institutions, particularly the Lebanese army, in fulfilling their responsibilities, and stressed that all parties must implement Security Council Resolution 1701. The resolution, unanimously approved by the UN Security Council on August 11, 2006, called for a complete Israeli withdrawal from southern Lebanon following the Israeli aggression against the country. It stipulated that the Lebanese army and UN peacekeeping forces in Lebanon would be the only armed forces permitted south of the Latahia River, which is approximately 30 kilometers from Lebanon's southern border. Egypt has consistently reaffirmed its support for Lebanon in the face of the Israeli aggression. Since mid-September, Israel has conducted extensive airstrikes on villages, towns, and cities across Lebanon, including Jahia in Beirut, resulting in over 1,400 deaths and more than 10,000 injuries. This bombing campaign followed nearly a year of cross-border fire with Hezbollah. Last week, Israel also attempted a ground invasion into southern Lebanon, but faced significant resistance from Hezbollah.
And to shed light on the latest development in Gaza, we are very much delighted to be joined over the phone by Dr. Ahmed Mostafa, our international relations expert. Good day, Doctor.
Yeah, good day. How are you?
How are you, sir? Doctor, can you explain Egypt's stance on the recent Israeli military escalation in Lebanon and how it impacts the whole of the regional stability?
Egypt, despite that some maybe media outlets doesn't highlight so much, or maybe some trying to defect or deform the role of Egypt, but in fact we are doing a very good role in this regard, whether in the kind of mediation and meddling, just to reduce the tension and stop and cease the fire permanently. And as you see that our Minister of Foreign Affairs, Badr Abdel-Ati, is doing a lot in this regard, as well as President Sisi. And also, as you see that all the international powers coming just to Egypt just to find a way, because they know that Egypt is a mother and a scaleholder in the region. And we exert a lot. For example, in Lebanon, we already sent like a movable hospital just to cure and heal, the injured and trying to help the people over there, plus the humanitarian aid that we already sent to Beirut airport a few days before in this regard, just a kind of solidarity and synergy with our brothers over there in Beirut and Lebanon concerning this brutal attack and this atrocity that happened from the Zionist entity against them, as well as to Gaza. And in the matter of Gaza, it's very sensitive, but we have some sort of support, but we cannot talk about in media. And I think it's good that we are not talking about such, aid and things like that concerning Gaza in media, and we need the image of Egypt to be like so in order to help more and more. And this is exactly what is the feedback that came from my friends from around the world in this regard. In this way, we try, whether politically and diplomatically, and of course in the kind of humanitarian aid and Medicaid, we try to find a way, and we're trying to push all the parties just to come together and sit together to find a solution. But the problem, as I told you before, it's not the problem of Gaza, it's not the problem of Lebanon, it's the problem of this idiot and this fanatic, selfish Netanyahu, this cannibalist and this vampire who tries to glue up and drag the whole region and drag America just to have or to ignite a war in our region. This is the main problem, and this body is a troublemaker and should be maybe executed or referred to international criminal court very, very soon, because the war is character in the history.
Yes, indeed. What specific action, actually, sir, does Egypt believe the international community should be taken in order to address the violations of the Lebanese sovereignty, which is happening now for weeks?
We stressed several times on the right of self-defense, which is supported by the international law and provided with the international law. We already pushed the international community just to stop and push this guy, Netanyahu, just to stop his aggression against Lebanon. Egypt is doing and exerting a lot, and also via the Arab League, via talking to the South, powers like China, like Russia, and the others in the African Union as well. We are exerting a lot of effort just to push, Israel, and to push Israel just to push Israel or Netanyahu just to stop these atrocities and these genocide that are taking place, especially in the suburb of this Dahia in Lebanon. And we witness that every day, and we follow up all the developments in this regard as well.
Yes, indeed, sir. Actually, earlier today, President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi met with visiting Jordanian Foreign Minister Ahmed in Cairo, and during their meeting, the two sides agreed on the necessity to send sufficient humanitarian aid to Gaza and Lebanon, and called on reaching an immediate ceasefire there. What's your take on that, and how do you see here the necessity of the international community moving and the Arab world moving in order to reach first the entry of humanitarian aid, as we are reaching a humanitarian crisis there?
Yeah, as you know, that Egypt and Jordan, they are the most or the closest countries to whether Palestine or to Lebanon, and they are aggrieved enough, whether aggrieved via the refugees that are coming from Palestine or from Lebanon or from the other countries to Egypt and Jordan, and this is like a pressure, economic pressure, as well as that we are the aggrieved countries because we are the most countries that's sending humanitarian aid also and medic aid also to the two countries as well. Therefore, we're trying to collaborate together because we are aggrieved and we are the closest countries, as I said before, and we know the reality of the situation. Maybe I can agree or not agree with some statements of Ayman Safadi, the foreign minister of Jordania, but at least the guy also is trying to find a way out in order to stop such pressures on Jordania, whether in media or in politics or in strategy or things like that, as well as in Egypt, because we know that the situation is more than 1 year now, and America, as you know, it has the elections, and Netanyahu just trying to use such an opportunity to the maximum until the end of the elections, despite I don't find any difference between the Democrats or the Republicans, because both of them, they are supporting Zionism and the death tool and the killing tool that's taking place whether in Gaza or in South Lebanon. And this is the reality that we should know, that even the Arab world and the big countries like Egypt and Jordan or the other wise people should shift their alliance to the new world order, to the global south, to Russia and China, because, and also, as I said before, without Iran and Turkey and Saudi Arabia, with Egypt alliance, nothing will be solved, frankly speaking.
Indeed, sir. In your opinion, what diplomatic strategies are necessary to rein in Israeli military actions and to prevent further escalation in the region?
As we said, and if you remember the foreign minister, the ex-foreign minister of Iran, Abdullahian, God bless him, this matter, he said before that we should boycott Israel economically and strategically. This is the stop of, all kinds of economic communication and trade partnership or things like that should be stopped immediately. At least, for example, the Gulf countries where they got the oil or things like that, I think they have to delay, not stop at all. Maybe delay the shipments for 1 week or 2 weeks or something like that, because they need the energy just to continue. And we should also, kick off all the ambassadors, especially with the countries that having some sort of normalization with. This is exactly the solution, because we cannot be more hypocrite in this regard.
Yes, sir. What role does Egypt foresee for itself in facilitating a ceasefire in Gaza, and how does it relate to the situation in Lebanon?
As I said before, it's really complicated, and Egypt alone cannot do a lot. But I think this crisis will, make Egypt restoring its, position as a scale holder and as a mother of the big sister of the other Arab countries. We are trying to do a lot, as I told you, whether strategically, whether diplomatically, whether, in terms of the humanitarian aid, the medical aid. We also trying to have talks. We're trying to do some pressures, but we cannot agree our brothers whether in Gaza or in Lebanon, because according to the international law in Gaza, for example, why Israel they don't allow them to have their own independent and sovereign state, and the two-state solution, where is it now? We have to ask ourselves this question, and we have to stem from that. Also for the South Lebanon, why they want to agree to South Lebanon, and why they are not yield to 1701, agreement of the United Nations. This is also another question we have to ask ourselves, because we will not, because what about the future if Israel is trying to attack Egypt in this regard? Will we, go to the, the international law? Israel just know only one language.
Yes,
it's fait accompli.
Yes,
if you are not powerful enough, you will not stop it.
Indeed. Dr. Ahmed Mostafa, our international relations expert, thank you so much, sir, for your precious input. And moving on with our report, where Egypt has consistently prioritized the economic development of Africa by enhancing investments and promoting the intra-African trade.
Economic development in the African continent among its top priorities by boosting investment among the countries of the continent, as well as increasing intra-African trade. Egypt's efforts also include developing infrastructure projects, supporting plans for continental industrialization, in addition to its commitment to play a pivotal role to build continental economic integration. Egypt has also been keen on activating the African Continental Free Trade Area. The African Continental Free Trade Area is the world's largest free trade area, bringing together the 55 countries of the African Union and 8 regional economic communities to create a single market for the continent. The aim is to enable the free flow of goods and services across the continent and boost the trading position of Africa in the global market. The overall mandate of the African Continental Free Trade Area is to create a single continental market with a population of about 1.3 billion people and a combined GDP of approximately $3.4 trillion. The African Continental Free Trade Area is one of the flagship projects of Africa's 2063 agenda, the African Union's long-term development strategy for transforming the continent into a global powerhouse. As part of its mandate, the African Continental Free Trade Area plans to eliminate trade barriers and boost intra-African trade, in addition to boosting investment and job creation.
Africa, despite its minimal contribution to global greenhouse gas emission, faces the greatest vulnerability to the climate change. The continent is at risk of severe impacts on its economies, infrastructure, water and food systems, and public health. As temperatures rise, Africa's adaptation needs to become increasingly urgent, with the cost of the climate adaptation potentially reaching $50 billion annually by 2050.
Africa, despite its low contribution to greenhouse gas emissions, remains the most vulnerable continent. Africa is the most vulnerable continent to climate change impacts under all climate scenarios above 1.5 degrees Celsius. Despite having contributed the least to global warming and having the lowest emissions, Africa faces exceptional collateral damage, posing systematic risks to its economies, infrastructure, investments, water and food systems, public health, agriculture, and livelihoods. Climate change represents a major threat to Africa in order to achieve sustainable development goals. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change report highlighted the grave consequences of a temperature increase above 1.5 degrees Celsius, especially for Africa. A research estimate that the cost of adapting to climate change across Africa could reach $50 billion a year by 2050 if the global temperature increase is kept within 2 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels. Under the Paris Agreement reached at COP21, all countries agreed to take collective action on climate change to keep global temperature increases to no more than 2 degrees above pre-industrial levels. African countries have outlined bold aspirations to build climate resilient and low-carbon economies in their nationally determined contributions to the Paris Agreement. Having signed and ratified the Paris Agreement, all African countries have committed to enhancing climate action through reducing their greenhouse gas emissions and building resilience. For the continent, adaptation to the adverse impacts of climate change is urgent.
Our dear viewers, we come to the end of our program Africa Today. I'm Maisy Rabia signing off. Many thanks for watching.